Guten Tag, APUSH. We have a new video today. It's the Bee's Knees by the big cheese himself, Mr. Linegar. Let's make history today as we jaw over Unit 7, Day 14. But first, let's do our daily punishment. Towels can't tell jokes. They have a dry sense of humor. Your key terms for today: Barack Obama, TARP, the Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, the Affordable Health Care Act, the Tea Party Movement, Occupy Wall Street, Citizens United versus the FEC, Obergefell v. Hodges, Black Lives Matter, DACA, the DREAM Act, and the Me Too movement. We're going to go over the Great Recession policy, healthcare policy of President Obama, Iraq and Afghanistan, homosexual rights, immigration, Black Lives Matter, and the Me Too movement. We're going to talk about Mr. Obama, President Obama. Towards the end of George Bush's presidency, you could see his popularity was decreasing. He got all the way into the 30s. At one point, he actually dropped below 30%. In 2008, President Obama Barack Obama will become the president. And the first thing President Obama will face will be the Great Recession. So let's talk about the Great Recession again. The rate of home foreclosures that had started to rise under Bush grew even larger and more troubling under Barack Obama's presidency, a lot of it because of the subprime mortgage crisis. Unemployment is going to pass 10%, which is the highest rate since the 1980s. A growing number of large banks and investment firms had difficulty staying afloat. Obama is going to continue Bush's policy. Bush created, under George Bush, he had Congress create TARP, which is the Troubled Asset Relief Program, which is a program that allowed the government to buy toxic assets and equity from financial institutions to strengthen them and to prevent them from collapsing. It's the whole idea of too big to fail. Obama will continue with the TARP program and the whole idea of too big to fail. He'll also work with Congress to pass the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act is going to give a stimulus package, which is going to be signed into law in 2009. It's going to try to create jobs. The government will provide jobs for people, so it'll be Keynesian economics. Invest in infrastructure, education, health, renewable energy. It was $787 billion. It will go up to $831 billion, and it was meant to try to get America out of the Great Recession. A variety of forces, including the efforts of Bush and Obama, will halt the recession by mid-2009, but the recovery is going to remain sluggish. It's not going to get any worse, but it's going to remain over 9% unemployment all the way to 2012. This shows where the TARP funds are going to. President Barack Obama is also going to work on reforming Wall Street. One of the big problems was the lack of regulation with the whole subprime mortgage. So he's going to pass the Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Acts. This is going to place a new governmental control on banks, investment firms, and the stock market. It will require mortgage lenders to follow more strict truth in lending regulations to let them know what they're lending, also to be more hard about who you're lending money to. One of the big things that President Obama, Barack Obama will pass will be the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare. This is going to mandate that all Americans purchase health care insurance beginning in 2014. If they don't do that, they can be taxed. The mandate part of Obamacare actually has been taken out by the Supreme Court. It's going to help set up health insurance exchanges to make that possible, where the government will provide health insurance options, even for people that don't have jobs. Those that don't comply face a yearly tax penalty. It's going to extend Medicaid coverage to help those who could still not afford insurance. And it's going to prohibit insurance companies from denying people coverage due to pre-existing conditions, which is probably the most popular aspect of it. It's not full government-run healthcare, but it is much more than what we had before. Here's the signing of it. All right. In 2010, the Democrats are going to lose Congress. The Republicans are really going to control the narrative, and they're going to make the Affordable Health Care Act sound really bad. The Democrats will get a shellacking in the election 2010. A lot of the people that were elected are going to be hyper-conservative Republicans. There's going to be a whole new movement within the Republican Party. It's called the Tea Party movement. It's going to be backed by wealthy private donors. It's going to be an anti-tax rebellion. It's going to be pushed by the party, calling for massive cuts to the government spending, deregulation, and less government in general. The Tea Party will really dominate Republican politics all the way till Donald Trump. And then once he's in office, like, he increases spending a lot, and they kind of change their position. They do change their position. The foreign policy for Barack Obama, the U.S. military had a hard time trying to protect democracy in Iraq amidst the growing civil war. There's going to be a surge in the number of U.S. forces on the ground that will bring some stability to the Iraqi government. As a result, Obama will establish a timetable for Americans' eventual withdrawal from Iraq. He will withdraw by 2011. Afghanistan will be a greater problem. In the face of the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, members of al-Qaeda are going to flee to Pakistan. To protect the Afghan government and speed up America's eventual withdrawal from the region, Obama is going to actually increase America's military presence in 2009. This will not be ultimately successful. We'll keep the soldiers under Donald Trump, and then under Joe Biden, we finally remove our soldiers from Afghanistan. And once we do, the Taliban retakes over Afghanistan. In 2011, Barack Obama will authorize a covert military action in Pakistan that's going to result in the death of Osama bin Laden. And so bin Laden will finally be killed. And here's him right now in the Situation Room. There is going to be also a more liberal movement, like we have the Tea Party movement. We have a more liberal movement called Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street is going to be kind of against big businesses, against big banks, against capitalism somewhat. They place the blame for the recession on shady, unregulated banking investment practices, which is kind of true. They argue that the gap between the rich and the poor had grown too large, and the wealthy they had grown too rich, so we need to tax the rich, we need to get rid of the banks. These people are literally going to occupy Wall Street and protest outside the headquarters of large financial companies. And they really wanted to kind of like do more regulation, if not taking over big businesses. Occupy Wall Street. Yep. There will be a couple really important Supreme Court cases under Obama. The first one was Citizens United. The Citizens United case ruled that the Supreme Court, that efforts to ban campaign spending by businesses, unions, and special interest groups were a violation of the First Amendment. So before this, there had been laws that were meant to, like Russ Feingold, that were meant to limit campaign contributions. But this basically got rid of, it really gutted that whole idea. There is still some kind of limits of it for individuals, but not for corporations, unions, stuff like that. In 2012, Obama will be reelected against Mitt Romney. He will have a divided government. He'll be the president, but the Republicans will control Congress. Here's the Supreme Court, the Roberts Court. Election in 2012. Divided government. Some of the big domestic issues under Obama's second term. Homosexual rights. He's going to end Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was created by Bill Clinton, so gay people could openly serve in the military. In 2015, Obergefell v. Hodges is going to go before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will rule in a 5-4 decision that gay marriage is legal, not just for some states, but like it would gay marriage for like any state. So gay marriage is now legal. Yes. And for immigration, Obama is going to wade into the fray over illegal immigration. He proposes DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This would allow some individuals who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children by their parents to apply for a renewable 2-year deferment. They'd gone to America, they were students, they'd been in this country their whole life. The Democrats and Obama will also push for the DREAM Act, which would have extended a path to citizenship for DACA recipients. And the DREAM Act is never officially passed. They've done some executive orders for DACA and the DREAM Act, but they're not really in the law book. After the Supreme Court decision, that's what the White House did when Obergefell was announced. Immigration. All right, in 2013, you're going to start to see a grassroots protest movement over the death of numerous African Americans because of police brutality. Some of the people that were killed because of police brutality: Trayvon Martin, Dontre Hamilton, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner. This is going to lead to a national protest movement called Black Lives Matter. This will lead to marches, protests in the sports. It's going to lead, Colin Kaepernick is going to take a knee during the national anthem, which is going to cause all sorts of controversy with some people. And it's going to really bring it more into the national debate. One of the last big social movements to happen started as early as 2006, but really didn't really start becoming more of a main issue around 2015, 2016. This is the Me Too movement. Women were experiencing sexual abuse and harassment. This happens to women all the time, famous women and non-famous women. Specifically, the people that are going to start speaking up are famous actresses: Alyssa Milano, Ashley Judd, Jennifer Lawrence, Uma Thurman. One of them posted a tweet and says, if this is you, also tweet hashtag Me Too. And it's going to lead to the Me Too movement of women experiencing sexual abuse or harassment. It's become a much bigger and much more talked about issue. It will lead to a high level of termination in Hollywood with some of the grossest offenders of men that have been doing sexual harassment that have pretty much been getting away with it all this time. There will be some men that are going to definitely face consequences for that and arrest. Not enough. It's still only the tip of the iceberg. But this is going to lead to a more female movement to really point out and emphasize the issue of sexual harassment that's going on and abuse. Me too. All right, kiddos. And that's all I have. Our next unit we will only be reviewing. So this is the last part of new information we have for this whole class. So I hope you've enjoyed U.S. history, starting with the Native Americans going to Barack Obama's presidency. And I look forward to reviewing all this stuff with you all. Until next time, deuces, yeah.